But you give credit where credit is due. What they did was courageous. What they did was a major step forward because in the 1990s, the Organization of African Unity did have a reparations commission, and they did establish a group of eminent persons on reparations. But when the OAU was phased out and the new African Union was formed, those bodies were not replicated in the African Union. So until CARICOM came along and took this decision, this was the only these were the only governmental entities embracing reparations. So as I said, it gave reparations a new lease on life. But we have to be we the Pan-Africanists, the activists, we have to be conscious, these are political leaders. Many political leaders base their actions on pragmatism. We have no way of guaranteeing that if the fire gets too hot, that they will remain in the kitchen. So we have to take responsibility we have to thank them for what they have done. We have to engage with them. We have to work with them as much as possible. But fundamentally, we have to take fundamental responsibility for this issue. And we have to work very hard to root it in our people and to make it into a mass movement. Because politicians understand people and votes. And if there are thousands of people in our countries saying yes to reparations, a politician would be more inclined to stay the course. If he feels that, we took up this thing, but we can't see the support coming from the people, then it's much easier for him to be persuaded to let it go. So we have work to do, right? And as we see clearly how much this reparations thing can do for our cause, then we have to get on with that job of rooting it in our people and making it a real mass movement. This brother here wants to say something.
Oh no, you touched on it at the end of your answer. So I was looking at, do you think for lots of them it's more like the Caribbean leaders, more of a cash grab, as in the financial incentives that could come from the reparations put forward?
I would not be, I don't want to, I don't want to say that I can determine what their specific motivations are. I could only speculate, but I would not be surprised because, the Caribbean has gone through a difficult period over the last decade or so economically. And yes, they might have been willing to listen to the reparations argument more intensely this time around because they're facing some serious economic and financial challenges, and this might have seemed like a possible way out. So that might be it. But whatever it is, the point is, what they have done is courageous. It has been very helpful, and it's been very helpful to our cause. Those of us who were on this path long before them, right? It's given our cause new visibility. It has given our cause new legitimacy because now that you actually have government saying that we believe in this thing, and we stand behind this, and we have established national governmental committees, right? And now is taken another step forward that the university, working with the Reparations Commission, has set up the Reparations Research Center, right? So it has given a lot of credibility to the issue, and but I stress again, we have to see ourselves as the real keepers of the cause, and we have to get on with the task of rooting it in our people. So whatever the motivations are, we accept it for what it is and just get on with what we have to do. Yeah?
Sorry, actually I just wanted to follow up on that whole question about the motivations of the governments. Because I do think, I mean, I see your point that it is important that these governments are publicly saying that reparations are legitimate and speaking up for it and so on. But even just to take the example of like, you know, like the Gonzales, for example. The fact that there is a severe economic crisis and that, you know, they are working within a set of institutional structures, voting and so on. And that precisely, I think there can be a way in which the priorities of government in taking these questions up really fundamentally cannot just be, it's even more than a cash grab, that the concept of reparatory justice and the idea of that as a lengthy process, you know, that can't just be resolved with cash payments, that can't just be resolved, that is fundamentally, in some ways, at odds with some of the political and institutional realities in which these government operates. So I think it's a really fundamental question, because for some of them, I do think it is quite likely, of course they're never going to say this openly, but it is quite likely that it is very much about some of the electoral concerns of the moment. And that they actually might see the kind of vision that I've heard you and other folks who have a much more, I think, healthy understanding of what reparations should be, that they really find that they really have no interest, I think.
Yeah.
And there's one other question I want, so that's one question. The other thing is,
before you get
sorry.
on that, just to say that's why, you know, what Melanie says is correct. So there is a danger. There's a danger, but that's why we have to be strong, because I will tell you, Melanie, if I came to the conclusion that the reparations issue was being sold out in some way, they will hear from me. You know, so you know, we have to engage with them. We have to engage with them in a very principled way, and we have to try to keep them on track, keep them going on the right path. And if we have to chastise, we chastise. And if we have to break ranks and throw a tantrum, we do that. But we are the ones who have invested so much in it, who have taken the time to really understand it. So we have to self-consciously play that role. So yes, you're quite right, but it's a danger we can't avoid. We have to be conscious of it, but we have to have sufficient confidence in who we are, the power that we can bring, where we stand among the people. Our voices will be heard as well. So it's not that we are powerless. We have voices too. You see? So yes, I accept what you're saying. There is that danger, but that just means that we have work to do. That's all. We have work to do. But if you had to give a choice between the governments getting involved and not, you will go every time with the governments getting involved and what that has done for the cause. And at the end of the day, they're our governments. Let's remember that. They are our governments. So and we are invested in them, and we are entitled to speak to them. We are entitled to make demands of them, and that's how we must think of them. What's the second point?
well, the second point is about some of the, so I know that the issue of Indigenous rights has been made a really central part. Well, it is there as part of the discussion about reparations, but I wonder about the degree to which it has been fully thought through, right? So again, I mean, the example I think of Ralph Gonzales, for example. So, you know, Greater Savitsa has a Garifuna population, you know, so Afro-Indigenous people. And on the one hand, you have the Gonzales government being very supportive of the reparations movement, including its the elements that are around Indigenous reparations for Indigenous genocide. But at the same time, you have that government of St. Vincent, but also governments of Guyana, Belize, pursuing policies that are undermining Indigenous rights. They have educational systems that perpetuate negative stereotypes about Indigenous and Afro-Indigenous people. They're governments who have signed on to the CARICOM reparations case, who are in court in the at the Caribbean Court of Justice have been brought to court, like for example, the Belize and the Maya, the Belizean government and the Maya. I mean, so you have these governments who are part of this reparations case, but who themselves are actively engaged in policies that really perpetuate legacies of indigenous genocide.
That's a contradiction that we need to highlight, and we need to use. So yeah.
And you have National Reparations Commission like in Guyana that are hostile, in fact, to indigenous land claims. There's actually an article in the Starboard News today from the head of the Guyana Reparations Commission saying that the government needs to stop giving land to indigenous people because that, is not good for reparations. It's
Right. So again, that just shows the amount of work that we have to do. But we have to be activists, and we have to advocate, and we have to use the reparations concept and campaign in a creative way. We have to use it to challenge our own governments. So I mean, these are not, as I said, these governments are not angels. These are not perfect governments. They may even have suspect motives. They may be willing to grab for short-term gain while overlooking the longer-term picture. So we have to be conscious of all of those possibilities. But that's the work of an activist. And so that's our job. Our job is to be on the case, to be on the ball, and to do what we have to do. But, and to draw those contradictions, to point them out, and to advocate around those contradictions.
So I just want to make sure that people coming in can see that there are chairs, they're scattered through the room.
How does the change of government